What is up, guys? Steelboy here. Another episode of Prospect Watch where we cover the best prospects from around world boxing. And today we will be covering heavyweight prospect out of Russia, Arslanbek Makhmudov. Arslanbek Makhmudov isn't one of these prospects at heavyweight that has a lot of fanfare. He doesn't get the same type of attention and hype that other prospects get at heavyweight. You know, guys like F.A. Ajagba, Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, Filip Hrgovic. He doesn't get that type of hype, but Arslanbek Makhmudov is a very interesting prospect in my opinion. He brings some good attributes, and I'm looking forward to seeing this guy's career unfold, mainly because he's damn exciting. He's very aggressive, he can punch, and regardless of how far this guy goes, it's going to be a fun ride watching him. Arslanbek Makhmudov is 29 years old. He is listed as 6'5.5". He weighs in around 250 pounds, and he's 8-0 as a pro, and all 8 of those wins come by the way of knockout, so he's made a good start to his pro career. He turned pro in December 2017, and he's already had 8 fights, so he's remaining fairly active, which I like. He's actually already fought 3 times in 2019, and you know, he's got a couple of recognisable journeymen on his resume. For example, in his last 2 fights he's fought Avery Gibson and Jonathan Rice. Now, prior to Makhmudov, these guys had never been stopped, but Makhmudov was the first to stop these guys. And Jonathan Rice, you know, he's a solid guy. He gave Tony Yoka quite a few problems, and Makhmudov managed to knock him out in 7 rounds. So I felt that was a fairly good result on paper. Don't get it twisted, I'm not saying Makhmudov is fighting a murderer's row, but he's knocking out journeymen who take a lot of prospects the distance. And you know, when these prospects are on the come up, I kind of like to compare their performances against the same journeyman, and Makhmudov is doing some good things, albeit at a low level. Now, Makhmudov's style is that of a come-forward fighter. He likes to come forward, apply pressure, push you back, and look for his right hand. He's got a lovely overhand right, and also he's got a lovely right uppercut, which he can throw up close, and he gets great power on that uppercut. He also gets great power on that straight right. They are his 2 best punches in my opinion, and they carry real punching power. I like the aggression that Makhmudov brings, and he's also actually got fairly fast feet coming forwards. You know, he cuts the ring off fairly quickly, which I like as well. But defensively, you know, as he steps up, I do believe he will, you know, need to tighten up. When he applies pressure and cuts off a ring, sometimes he'll come forwards with his hands low, and he gets caught coming in. I mean, if you want to see the best and worst of Arslanbek Makhmudov, watch his fight in the World Series of Boxing with Nistor. That fight was a very good fight, but Makhmudov was getting tagged up. He got hurt in that fight, and at the end of that fight he knocked out Nistor. That fight for me just highlighted the best and worst of Arslanbek Makhmudov. Defensively he is there to be hit, but that punching power really isn't a joke. He carries genuine punching power. You know, he hits guys and they stay hit, basically. But defensively, as I mentioned, I would like to see him tighten up a little bit more than he's doing right now, because as he steps up, you know, these higher level guys are going to find the target, and he could be involved in a few shootouts in the heavyweight division if he carries on fighting the way he does. And that will of course make for some very exciting fights, but I don't think you can keep fighting that way and not coming unstuck. Eventually somebody's going to time you, hurt you, and take you out, especially in the heavyweight division. I'd like to see Makhmudov tighten up, and another thing I would like to see is more of a jab. Makhmudov coming forwards, he doesn't really commit to his jab. He doesn't really set that right hand up off the jab. You know, he kind of uses that jab as a rangefinder, kind of pull with it, and then come over with his right hand. He doesn't really commit to that jab. You don't see him flick out the jab to the body, use a ramrod jab. You don't see any of that. It's purely pouring with the jab to set up that right hand. I would like to see more variety from that jab from Arslanbek Makhmudov. The guy is obviously very heavy-handed. If he could also implement a real ramrod jab to his game, it's going to make him that much more effective. And combine that with a nice tight guard and the pressure he brings, this guy's going to be a real problem. You know, he's got a few things to iron out, but I think he's kind of one of those fighters that is a potential hidden gem, a diamond in the rough, as they say. And if they could iron out a few issues, I do believe this guy could actually go quite far, because physically he is the part. He carries real punching power, like I said. He has incredible strength. You know, he looks like a bear in there, just marauding forwards like a bulldozer almost. You know, he's got all the physical attributes. He has the punching power. He's got a decent amateur background. Just needs to tighten up, add a few things to his game, and this guy's going to be a real problem. I mean, Alexander Povetkin is coming towards the end of his career, and, you know, Russian heavyweight boxing needs that next guy to take over from him. And Makhmudov is one of the guys who I'm touting for that spot. I think right now he's the guy I'm excited about most in Russian heavyweight boxing in terms of prospects. You also have guys like Sergei Kuzmin. I'll be honest, I don't really rate Kuzmin that highly. Another guy you have is Evgeny Romanov. I think Romanov is a good prospect. You may remember Romanov from knocking out Deontay Wilder in the amateurs. He's a guy to look out for. He's a smaller heavyweight, but he's quick, with good punching power. He's a good prospect. But right now, I think Makhmudov is looking like the most likely heir to Povetkin's throne. Whether he will be as good as Povetkin remains to be seen. I personally don't believe so. But, you know, like I said earlier, he certainly has the physical attributes to go a long way. And if he gets the right sparring, the right training, you know, he can be very effective, in my opinion. And if you match this guy with certain fighters in the heavyweight division, I'm telling you now, you are going to get some absolute barn burners, shootouts, and bloodbaths. You know, this guy is pure brutality, and I like fighters like that, I can't lie. But, you know, the main thing is for him to keep on improving, to tighten up, get good sparring, like I said, and also to get matched correctly. You know, matchmaking in the heavyweight division is very hard at times for prospects. If you make one wrong move, you can ruin a guy's career. And that is true, you know, with all weight divisions in boxing. But at heavyweight, it's especially true. I mean, we can all go back to David Price, for example. You know, he was knocking over guys like Matt Skelton and Tom Dallas. And all of a sudden, he's fighting Tony Thompson, who was a world-level contender. And we all know what happened there. So matchmaking for heavyweights is very important. I mean, if I was managing Arslanbek Makhmudov for his next few fights, I would be putting him in there with, you know, tough, durable guys like Jerry DeWayko, for example. Guys who will try to take Makhmudov a few rounds. I think DeWayko would be perfect for that. I mean, other guys like Travis Kaufman, that could be another good fight for Makhmudov at this stage. You know, these are the type of guys who I would put Makhmudov in with if I was his manager for the next few fights. You know, guys who will give him a few different looks, give him a few different problems, and take him a few rounds. Maybe Kevin Johnson is another guy you could put Makhmudov in with. Could he stop Kevin Johnson? I certainly believe he's got the power to do so. It's whether he can get past that defence. And I think that's another fight I would make for Makhmudov if I was his manager. Now, as a fan, who would I like to see Makhmudov fight? I mean, I would love to see him fight some of his fellow Russian prospects. The fight I'd really love to see is between Makhmudov and Rostislav Klitschko. If you've not seen Klitschko fight before, go on YouTube and search him up. He brings pure aggression and punching power. Makhmudov versus Klitschko would be an absolute war. Another fight you could do is Makhmudov versus Sergei Kuzmin. Again, I'm sure that fight would be a war. Both guys are aggressive. Both guys can punch. Makhmudov versus Evgeny Romanov. Another good fight. Makhmudov versus Apti Davtayev. You know, these are all good fights between prospects. But, you know, that very rarely happens in boxing. They are just the fights I would love to see as a fan. And if I could make those fights happen, I certainly would. I mean, Makhmudov versus Klitschko would be crazy. Or Makhmudov versus Romanov, or even Kuzmin. They are all great fights. But yeah, I just want to see gradual step-ups from Arslanbek Makhmudov, and I want to see him stay active, and hopefully he can make some improvements. But yeah, he's a very interesting prospect, he's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to following this guy's career. He certainly got me interested. Share your thoughts below. Peace.